Good evening, everybody. It's 8 o'clock, 21st. What is it? 21st of May, Wednesday evening, if I'm right, if the clock on planet Earth is still running in the correct sequence. Welcome, everybody. We're going to do something funny tonight that's called Mental Gym. I have no clue who actually dreamt up this title, but it sure seems funny, and I think we can actually do something with that. Yeah, I mean to make it quite entertaining, give you some valuable data that you can think with, and data that you can actually use, right? The whole purpose of these webinars is actually to give you information that works. Now, quick question. I just came running in very, very late. I just want to hear from you guys. Is the sound okay, and is the vision okay? We had a bit of we had a couple of changes here in this webinar room. Lights have changed. Setup has changed a little bit. So just a quick question. Can you hear me loud and clear? Is the sound okay? Is the vision okay? So in the meantime, let's see, who do we have? By the way, my name is Eric. And you might be able to tell I'm not English or Irish or American. I'm actually from Holland. Netherlands, that is. I left my country like 20 years ago, lived in the Caribbean for pretty much half the time, Venezuela, Mexico, and then some European countries. Ended up here in Ireland 3 years ago. And that's what I like to do, kind of like to live out of a suitcase, more or less. Anyway, so the chat is open, guys. Feel free to put anything in the chat. That's like a house rule. You're most welcome to share your opinions, your thoughts, your questions in the chat. Pavel is there, my colleague, to help you answer any questions that you may have. And first of all, I actually want to look who is here tonight. We are on Facebook, we're on Zoom, we're on Instagram. Did I miss anything? We're on YouTube. All right. So quick question to you guys. I think we're not too many people on Zoom here. Please let us know. Please share, where are you from? And what brought you to this webinar? Is there any specific reason that you said, okay, mental gym, that seems to be my topic, I want to attend that? I'm very curious what brought you in. Is there anything specific that you're looking for? Any data that you're looking for? Anything that you want to resolve in your life, improve better? Put something in the chat, please. And then also put in there, where are you from? The funny thing is that we have people from all over the world, and it goes as far as Africa or other continents, what have you. And it's always cool to find out, you know, where you guys are from. Also, Robert, du bist von Deutschland. So, sehr gut. You can tell. Yeah, I actually grew up very close to the German border, so I've always loved us. Also, Olaf, bist auch noch dabei? Nice. That is good. So we have here Imran Khan. Welcome, Imran. We have got Joseph. I think Joseph, we met in person, or didn't we? But I think I've seen you before, haven't I? Kyle, guys, Kyle has been here more than 60 times already. Absolutely amazing. Now we got Eeyore Foster. Welcome, Eeyore. We got Morgan. We got Olaf Brau. Ranzang, Ran. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. You were here last week, am I right? And Robert. Okay, and that's all that we have for tonight on Zoom. All right, good. So everybody else who's tuning in from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, hello everybody. If you find a way to ask any questions, these questions actually come through, and Pavel, my colleague, will answer you. All right, or you will make sure that I actually get to see your questions. Now, so mental gym. That's the topic of tonight, mental gym. And I have a question to start with for you guys. And that is this. It is a mental gymnastic, right? Sometimes you feel that you want to do things, but you don't do them. Something is holding you back. Or you know that you should be doing things, but you don't do it. You postpone it. So on later. Or the flip side of it, you have probably seen that there are certain things that you know you shouldn't do, but you do them anyway. So this is my first question to you guys. Have you seen this observation? Have you observed this in yourself or in somebody else? Have you observed that funny mental gymnastic? Like wanting to do something, but then not doing it. Or knowing that certain things you shouldn't be doing, it goes like kind of like, I can't stop myself. I'm going to do it anyway. Might even be embarrassing. Right? Have you seen this phenomenon? Not doing the things that you want to do, and doing the things that you know that you shouldn't be doing. Have you seen that phenomenon? So please use the chat, guys. It's always good to find out from you guys if you can think with these kind of examples. Makes the whole thing very lively. And then from here, from my end, I can actually see that you guys are tracking and understanding. All right, Robert. Yes, for sure, Robert. Okay, good. So you're the first one to answer. That's great. Now, so like I said, it can actually be embarrassing. Yeah. Now, don't worry, because you're not the only one. It's pretty much every person on planet Earth running into, well, this kind of mental gymnastic. Right? If you're going to want to call it that way, okay, well, I'd say, well, that's kind of like a mental gymnastic, right? How do you figure this one out? There's certain things you want to do, and you don't do them. And there's certain things that you know you shouldn't be doing, all these bad habits, but you can't stop yourself. You do them anyway. So, next question to you guys. Let me see, does somebody else? I shouldn't have a huge chop of ice cream after dinner, but I did anyway. Absolutely. There we go. Thank you, Ron. Yeah. Now, there's probably more embarrassing things than this. You probably sometimes think, you know, you're doing things which might even be a bit discreditable about you. But, of course, that affects your life, right? Of course, like, well, let's just do a little quick drawing. You are here and you have a goal. There's something that you want to achieve. Right? Now, that seems very nice. It seems very nice to have this. It seems very nice to achieve this. But what do you think most people focus on? Barriers or the goal? What is it that what do you think most people focus on? What do they see? They might see something like, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't feel very secure. I don't have any training in this. I have no education there. My brother is very good at doing this, but I'm not so good. You see what happens, right? There's something there that holds you back. This is what we're going to cover tonight. All right. Now, I want to go back to that question just quickly. Yeah. Not doing the things that you want to do, because you're running into that. And otherwise, doing the things that you don't want to do. I'm just curious, if you see that, how does it affect you in your life? How does that affect you in your life? These mental quirks, right? These mental, well, whatever they are. Let's go back to gymnastics. I'm very curious, if you see this in your life, how does it affect you? All right, Olaf, yeah, feels like a bad habit. Yeah, not happy about it. Exactly, yeah. We're not happy to have these things, right? So there's something in you that you don't really like, that you're not really proud of. Now, just imagine that you're going to have this for the rest of your life. what would actually happen if that doesn't improve? You could actually see it's not going to end well, right? So would you like to know where this feeling or where this impulse is coming from? Would you be curious tonight to know why this happens? Where's that coming from? Would you like to notice? I'm just playing with your curiosity, guys. Would you like to know why this is happening to people? Why this is happening to you? Would you like to know what is stopping you? What is holding you back? What is impulsing you to do these things that you're not particularly proud of? And of course, feel free to use the chat. It makes it very, very lively, guys. Makes it more fun. Just participate, put something in there. It makes it a lot of fun tonight. And I can see, are you guys tracking? We go fast. Because my whole idea was to go like a very fast, kind of high velocity, and give you a whole bunch of data. All right, good. Ron, you'd like to know. Lovely. Okay, good. So here we're going to get started. Yeah, we're going to get started with a little mind drill. What I want you to do is I want you to think of primary school for a moment. Yeah, think of primary school. See if you can actually get a picture in your mind of the building itself. What does it look like watching primary school from the street? What are the dimensions of the building? Where are the windows? How is the roof? Is there a garden in front of the building? Where is the entrance? Is there a playground? Does the building have a corridor? Now, let's go to one of the classrooms. See if you can actually remember one of those classrooms. Where were the windows? Where would you walk in? Where's the door? Where would the teacher sit? All right, now, did you get some pictures here? Did you guys get some pictures? Did you get some flashes? Could you actually see some images? Yes, all right, that's great, good. Imran, thumbs up, fantastic, cool. All right, good. So that is your mind. Your mind makes pictures. Let's let's do a little sketch. That's your mind. It's like a time track of pictures. You could compare it to a footage, like a Hollywood movie that has all these pictures in time, right? Now, your mind's a bit more special, and we're about to go into the next drill, so you can actually see how that works, right? So the next drill is this. What I would like you to do is imagine again that you are sitting in your favorite chair in the living room in the house where you grew up as a child or a teenager. Just go back to the place and imagine again that you're sitting in your favorite chair or the chair where you would used to sit in the living room in the house where you grew up as a child or teenager. Maybe you moved several times, maybe you've been in different houses. Just choose one. Yeah, just choose one house. Imagine you're sitting in your favorite chair again. All right, now, if you're there, what I'd like you to do is, from where you are sitting, just point out like this for yourself, where's the TV? Just from where you're sitting, where would the TV be? And have a look at the TV if you can actually get an image of the TV, its size, its color. Maybe it's sitting on something, maybe it's wall mounted. Right. If you have that, where's the table? Where's the nearest table? For a lot of people, that would actually be in front of them, most likely. Well, let's have a look at the shape of the table, the color of the table, the dimension of the table. Good. Now, let's find a window, any window. Let's find any window in the room and just point at it. And estimate the size of it. What's the size of the window? And then what do you find? What do you see in the window? Do you see drapery? Do you see blinds? Do you see curtains? What is the color? Or what are the colors that you see? Maybe you got plants in front of the window. All right. Now, lastly, let's find the door. Where's the door in the room? Any door. In my case, I would have one over there. I would have one behind me. All right, guys. So, were you able to do this? Were you able to point out these objects in space about you? Were you able to do that? Just glancing quickly at the chat. See in the meantime if anybody new came in. All right, we got 2 yeses. That's fantastic. Good. This is well done. Well done, Ran. Well done, Imran. So what do we discover with these pictures? What we discover is that these pictures are 3-dimensional. They are 3-dimensional. So in other words, these pictures, they kind of like appear in space. Yeah, we would call them mental images. These are mental images. These are not physical images because you cannot touch them. You cannot hold them, right? You can't touch them, you can't hold them, you can't size them up, you can't weigh them, you can put them on a scale. These are mental images. They don't consist of mass. They do, however, have energy in them. Okay? Now here's a fun fact. Right away, you can see that your brain and your mind are 2 different things. You would not say, for example, the TV is right here in my head, and I saw the door in the back of my head, and I saw the window here next to my temple. It didn't work that way. Apparently, these pictures are not in the brain somehow, because you've been pointing about you, right? So something else is going on. All right, so that's an intriguing question. This is your body. That's your mind. So, who or what is looking at these pictures now? And that's the question for you guys. So, who or what is looking at those pictures? What is your opinion? This mental gymnastics class. Who or what is looking at these pictures? Let's try some mental gymnastics here and see if we can actually pop up an answer here. All right, guys, what do you think? Who or what is looking at these pictures? Feel free to put something in the chat. All right, I am. That is beautiful. Okay, and I think it's spot on. Yeah, you are. Okay, good. So let's put another factor here, another element. So we can actually study three factors when we study a human being. We can study your body. Not super duper interesting, last 75 years on average. Then you decide what to do with it. We can study the mind. That there already gets very interesting, because your mind is full of tricks. It pulls all kinds of tricks on you that we're going to see tonight, right? Your mind stores all these experiences, including the bad ones. And then you, well, what are you made of? What is your true potential, right? Okay, so just keep this very, very quick. Well, we could say you are an awareness. You're certainly aware right now that you're hearing a voice, that somebody's talking. You're certainly aware of the light in the room. You're certainly aware of what is happening in your body, for example. Maybe you're digesting food, whatever. You're aware of, sitting in a chair. You're aware of the temperature and a lot of other things. Yeah, so you are aware. You're also aware of the fact that you are aware. It's a bit different from a dog. You put a dog in front of a mirror and he thinks it's another dog. You put yourself in front of the mirror and you know it's you. You are aware of that fact, right? So you are aware that you are aware. You're also intelligent. You're also an intelligence. Let's say, I don't know, you come home, you put your keys on the table, you go to this room, that room, the other room, all kinds of rooms. 2 hours later, you decided you want to go out, you put your hands in your pockets, sit down. Where's my keys? What you gonna do? You're gonna have a look and say, okay, what did I do exactly when I got home? You're gonna remember where you actually put your keys. That's how you use your mind. That actually points out you're an intelligent being. Okay, now, we could say you're an energy. You're an energy. You're endowed, that body, with energy. If you're very happy, you feel very light. You can, I don't know, you can run the world record, so to speak. Or at least have that feeling. And when you just got some bad news or you're terribly stressed, then you actually endow that body not with good energy, but with very bad energy. You might find it very, very hard to get up in the morning. You find yourself very, very sluggish. So there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of things that we can learn. Right now, suffice to say, we're just going to say you are a life force. That's what we're going to do. We're going to say you are a life force. All right, now, a quick question here. So we just did that drill. We just did a drill looking at primary school, looking at the playground, the classrooms, but we also looked at the living room at home. Now, just out of curiosity, did anybody feel any unwanted sensation, unwanted emotion, unwanted feeling? Did anybody feel something or had some kind of an emotion that just came up? Could you let me know in the chat, please? If there's anything that just sprung up, some kind of an emotion that you didn't see coming, but kind of like came in. All right, Olaf, thank you. Now, just history, going back. Okay, that's fantastic. Ran, no, okay, beautiful. Sometimes we get yeses here. And that actually tells you, you can go memorize reminisce quite innocent things and yet feel some kind of an emotion that you don't want. Now, I got another question for you then. So, let's say you have to go to a job interview, or you have to do an exam that is quite a critical one for you to pass, or you have to do public speaking. So in these kind of examples, would you normally feel some nervousness or feel some stress? Would you normally feel nervous or stressed? All right, Robert, thank you. Yes, right. So in these kind of situations, you might feel nervous. Okay, I'll have another question for you, like, in what other kind of situations does that occur? But let's just take up this as an example. Let's take this up as an example. All right, Olaf, yeah, but it's a good stress, keeps me at a good attention level. All right, good, I get you. Thank you for the answer. So let's say we take public speaking. A lot of people have difficulty with that, right? Even business owners, CEOs, a lot of people actually find that quite stressful to do. And of course, me too. I just hide it very well. All right. So here we go. what happens when, let's say, you do public speaking? I was about to draft something. I'm going to do that in a second. What happens when you start doing public speaking? You may find out when you have done that before, you may have this knot in your stomach. Yeah, the butterfly feeling in your stomach. You might feel actually very tense and very stressed in the stomach, like something is going on here. And maybe your legs feel kind of like shaky, yeah, unstable, like there's no force in your legs. You might sweat, transpire, your heart may pulse at a different rate. You might get a dry throat. Despite the fact that you keep drinking, you keep having a dry throat. Have you seen that? There's some force that controls your body in a bad way. Shaky legs, transpiring, heart palpitating, your stomach going crazy. Maybe you're holding up some paper, but you can't hold it still, and you're just shaky, and your voice is trembling. You've probably seen that, right? Something takes over the control of your body. Now, likewise, maybe if you have rehearsed things for yourself, like, what is it that I'm going to say? What is it that I'm going to ask? And you kind of like put that down on paper and you drilled it a couple of times. What could actually happen is that you also get a shut of your memories. In other words, this is what people refer to as a self-sabotage. Right? You may have seen that, for example, that you knew you had to go and see a dentist, but then that feeling kicked in and maybe you canceled the appointment. Or you went to a job interview and you forgot to answer the critical questions. And you were sitting there perhaps a little bit robotically, not really at comfort, at ease, answering the questions that you got. So my first question to you, have you seen that self-sabotage? Yeah, where something takes over the control. It controls you, but you don't control it. Have you seen that? Yep. All right. Thank you, Olaf. All right. How about the other guys? Have you seen this? Just out of curiosity. Very curious if you guys are tracking. Right? Robert? Yes. Fantastic. Now, could you give me an example? Could you give me an example in what kind of a situation in your life does that happen? Could you give me an example? In what kind of a situation in your life does that happen? For example, when there's a girl and you want to talk to her, but you go like, oh, I'm not so sure. I may need to drink a few extra beers. Maybe for the ladies, you want to walk over to a guy, but something prevents you from doing that. Maybe some kind of a conversation that you need to have with somebody, but even the thought of it makes it seem impossible. Or a dentist or doctor's appointment. You feel sick and you know that you should call for an appointment, but you just have it linger for a little bit because you can't really get your mind to get through that point. So in what kind of a situation, what kind of a life situation have you seen this happening to you? Just going to wait 10 seconds. Otherwise, I assume we have super women and supermen here, and nobody's running into this. All right, here we go. Yes. Fantastic, guys. Okay, let me have a look. Let me have a look. I'm happy with your answers. All right, cool. So, speaking to a girl I like or public speaking. Yeah, those are brilliant examples, right? We've all seen that. Yeah. Especially when the coming up situation is important and maybe key changing. Absolutely, yeah. Like when a lot of things are at stake, it seems like something kicks in, totally controls you, and you're not controlling it. In other words, you're really hitting it on the nail here. Why? Because you feel that whatever that is that you need to do is really going to contribute to your survival, is really going to contribute to your life. In other words, it is of your own life's importance to reach that goal, to succeed. And then actually it kicks in the hardest. It goes the hardest against you, so to speak. All right, so let's see where this is coming from. I'm going to give you a very, very simple example, okay? Very simple example, but that's actually how it works in life. So now we're going to call this guy Joe. Here's Joe. That's Joe's mind. Now imagine 10 years ago, Joe was robbed in a dark alley at midnight. So it's 12 o'clock. Joe is walking through a dark alley. Somebody hits him in the back. Joe goes unconscious. There's Joe. He's lying there. He is unconscious. He's unconscious for a full hour. When he wakes up, he's in pain. He's very afraid. He's in fear. Remember, it's also dark over there. And now he finds out his possessions are gone. In other words, he's got a loss. He lost his wallet with all the money, his ID cards, his driver's license. He lost his jewelry. He lost his valuable things. He's been robbed. He's been robbed and he's been attacked. So, let's say this whole incident here that took place 10 years ago. Now you can imagine that if you're afraid, we could compare this to a certain force. That is like an emotional force. If you're in pain, there's like a somatic, a body-like force. So let's just put the arrow there of a force, all right? Like I said, that was a long time ago, 10 years ago. Now, Joe is currently in present time. He's in PT, present time, and he walks down the road. He walks down the road. And he walks into an alley. What do you think Joe's mind is going to do now? present time, Joe walks into an alley. What do you think Joe's mind is going to do? Run. He's afraid because of the past experience. That is fantastic. That's a very good answer. So, in other words, the fear starts to kick in. All right. Now, let's take it one step further. That alley has lights, but these lights now shut down. All of a sudden it's dark. What is going to happen now? What do you think is going to happen now? Now that it actually suddenly got dark. Just going to have a zip of my water and let you guys type. All right, Joe might have a flashback of what happened before. Definitely, he'll remember the bad situation before. Robert says the fear intensifies. Exactly. Now, how can you remember something if you were in a semi-coma? How can you remember something if you were actually unconscious? There was a moment in time where he was conscious, he got a hit there, he went in coma, or he went unconscious, and he woke up again, right? So his awareness dropped and came back up. One of the things is for sure, so first of all, we are going to add this darkness, and this is going to intensify. All right, now, if there are enough factors which are similar to this situation occurring in the present, then this thing is going to take over and control Joe completely. And you have probably seen something like this with, let's say, a family member or an associate or somebody who's doing, let's say he's ranting and he's shouting and he's in disagreement and I don't want to hear another word of you, and he's getting angry, and it follows a certain pattern. And you observe that person another time and he's doing the same pattern. I don't want to hear another word of you. And you see that person later and he's ranting and he's ranting and he's getting upset and I don't want to hear another word of you. It's like you put the needle on the record and he's playing the same song every time. That's what we call a dramatization. It's like there is an incident somewhere that the person dramatizes. Something has happened to that individual that he doesn't know of because it's got some content that he doesn't know about because he was unconscious. But he is dramatizing it. That's what you get here. Does that make some sense? Does it make some sense that that incident, that earlier incident, now starts to affect him in present time? Does that make some sense to you guys? Yeah? All right, good. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. So, he would probably hear this emotion would probably come back and you probably feel afraid again. He was afraid there, he's going to be afraid here. He was robbed here, he lost his wallet, he lost his possessions. Over here, these things might run in his thoughts. Oh my God, I might be robbed again. Okay. He might even get some kind of a sensation, some discomfort in the body, which is to say that pain that was received back then is turned on again. He feels uncomfortable body-wise. That's all expressed there, right? Now here's the kicker. Let's say you had a thief over here there was a thief standing next to Joe, and that thief, while Joe was unconscious, said to Joe, "Next time take your shoes off, you'll run faster." This is part of the incident. Next time take your shoes off, you'll run faster. Do you think in that situation here, he might have a thought to take his shoes off so he can run? What do you guys think? He might, yeah, maybe. Because there is some influence here that he doesn't know about that affects him over there. Now, have you ever seen hypnosis on TV? Have you ever seen hypnosis for real in a show? I have when I was a student in college. And you can see that you can actually, you take an unconscious person and you feed him some data, and when you wake him up again, he's going to execute the command that was given to him. So, I'm going to give you an example. By the end of the evening, I'm actually going to put a link there from this book. So the data I'm using tonight is coming from this book. It's called Dianetics, which is the modern science of mental health. So I'm using this data from the book, which is a book on the mind. And it tells you what it is that's holding you back, that's limiting you. Yeah. And it gives some examples of hypnosis, which are super interesting. It's actually on page 70. And I just want to read you a couple of examples, yeah? So the author says, no matter how foolish a suggestion is given to a subject under hypnosis, he will carry it out one way or another. Now notice, if a person is unconscious here, like, let's say during an operation, during birth, a moment of intense pain, or when he's drunk, he is way, way, way less aware, and these perceptions and that speech enters in his mind, but he's not really aware of what it is that's entering his mind, and it can now affect him, can now influence him. So no matter how foolish a suggestion is given to a subject under hypnosis, he will carry it out one way or another. He can be told to remove his shoes or call someone at 10 the following day, or eat peas for breakfast, and he will. These are direct orders, and he will comply with them. He can be told that his hats do not fit him, and he will believe that they do not. Any suggestion will operate within his mind unbeknown to his higher levels of awareness. In other words, you can feed him when he's at a very low level of awareness. You can feed him actually anything, but he's not aware of it. So that's why it's causing him trouble. very complex suggestions can be given. One such could be to the effect that he was unable to say I. He would omit the word I from his conversation, using remarkable makeshifts without being aware that he was actually avoiding the word I. Or he could be told that he must never look at his hands, and he will not. So these are called repressions. Yeah, these are like the things that you feel you cannot do. These are called repressions. I cannot do that. He can be told that he has an urge to squeeze. No, sorry. He can be told that he has an urge to sneeze. Hachu. Every time he hears the word rug, which is a carpet. And that he will sneeze when it is spoken. So he can be told that he has an urge to sneeze every time he hears the word rug or carpet, and then he will sneeze when it is when that word is spoken, and he will sneeze. So he can be told that he must jump 2 feet in the air every time he sees a cat, and he will jump. So these are called compulsions. These are things that you have to do. You don't know why, you simply have to do them. He can be told that he will think very sexual thoughts about a certain person, but that when he thinks, his nose will itch. So, has sexual thoughts, but at the same time, his nose is itching. It's kind of a weird situation, right? He can be told that he has a continual urge to lie down and sleep. But then every time when he lies down, he feels that he cannot sleep. That would be a neurosis. Yeah. So there's a lot of examples here, but basically what it boils down to is that a person that has been rendered unconscious can now be told things that he will comply with later on when the incident is getting reactivated. Just like here, we have a situation where the person is going unconscious, he's being robbed, he's in pain, he's in fear, he went unconscious, and something was told to him, next time take your shoes off, you'll run faster. He may start to believe when that thing gets triggered that the way to run is bare feet. Does that make some sense? Quite a simple example, yeah? But of course you run better with shoes. Of course, yeah. I think we all do. Now, so here it goes. You're probably aware of certain thoughts that you have. Certain thoughts, like a negative thought that is holding you back. It's something that you don't want, but it's just there. Now, can you give me an example of a thought that you have which is negative about yourself? Do you have some examples or an example of a negative thought that you have about yourself? Could you give me one? Could you give me an example, a negative thought that you have about yourself? I'm going to give you an example, yeah? I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. I don't have any experience. I'm shy. I'm not a good talker. I feel insecure. All right, so give me some examples that you feel could be blocking you in your life. All right, there's a good one. I'm not physically strong. It's a very good one. All right, so Ren, so do you run into that sometimes? You feel like you have to lift, but you can't? Anybody else? Any other examples? That was a good example. So in the meantime, here is obviously this is where the mind makes mistakes, yeah? How does the mind make mistakes? It confuses this moment here with that moment there. That is completely illogical. It is irrational. Now you would say, yes, but Eric, he could be robbed again. Well, yeah, true. That is very true. The problem here is there's something that runs on full automatic. It runs on full automatic against the person, and he has no control over it. He cannot switch it off. So imagine that instead of a dark alley, let's say he just got bitten by a dog. Now he sees a dog. And automatically he becomes afraid. Now, this dog here is not that dog over there. Likewise, he might be in a job interview sitting in front of another person, and this reminds him of a person who hurt him, and he feels very, very uncomfortable facing the person who's giving the interview. This is where the mind makes mistakes. It simply confuses something from the past with the present, and it now enforces the bad experience from the past so that the person cannot really operate in present time. He has no control. All right, so I think, Ran, you were the only one who gave me actually a negative phrase, negative example about yourself. So I actually wanted to get a few more examples from you guys, but maybe when I say, I'm not good enough, I'm not cut out for this, I'm lacking experience, I wasn't educated to do this, what have you, all these kind of self-negative, invalidative thoughts, right? Lowering, reducing yourself, yeah? That is coming from somewhere. It's holding you back, right? So the question here is, do you understand? Do you see that the negative thoughts also come with a negative force and are holding you back? Because you're not going into action. Now, there's something there, some thoughts that prevent you from going into action. Can you see that? All right, so that's clear, yeah? That's clear. Some thoughts there prevent you from going into action. And then when you want to deny the thought and go into action anyway, now that kicks in. See? So, but now is the question, how to overcome these bad habits? Exactly. Yeah. So what I want you what I want to make very, very clear is that when you're not going into action, when you're not doing the things you want to do, you will never reach your goals. You will never be happy, because happiness has to do with reaching goals. When you're not going into action, it simply tells you you're only using a very little portion of your full potential. Most of your potential is working against you here. That makes sense? All right, good. So what is the trick? So we have a body, and we discover that this here has got nothing to do with the body. You can take all the pills in the world. It might help you to calm down a little bit, to be less nervous, but it won't handle it. So the solution is not in the body. Now we have a mind, and now we know a little bit more about the mind, and it tells you that the mind is carrying those painful forces from the past plus the phrases which work like a hypnotic suggestion. Next time, take your shoes off, you'll run faster. Or, you'll never make it in life. I'm not gonna make it. How many people have thought this? I'll never make it. I'll never make it in life. Those are phrases that are actually stored in those type of incidents. In other words, these incidents, they carry a force and they carry phrases. Now, when did these things come about? They came about during a moment that you, as a life force, let's say as a spiritual being, you were less aware. Your awareness was low. And what was found that when we raised the awareness, that you will actually be able to uncover what is in those incidents. Once you become aware of them, they lose their force over you. And the negative thoughts about yourself, which are holding you back, will go. All right? So, solution is not in the body. The solution is, okay, there's some content in the mind that works against you. We'll have to make you become more aware. So how do we do that? How do we do that? I just need a sip of water. I'm going to wipe out something quickly. The book tells you how does the mind work. It helps you because there's a glossary here in the back, so it's got like its own dictionary. But it also tells you what is the method to get rid of these bad habits and to get rid of this self-sabotage. The way that works is quite simple. We got Joe here. Joe is sitting in a chair and he's working with a friend that we call auditor. An auditor is simply somebody who listens. This person is going to help Joe to find the incident that is holding him back. In the book, you'll find a 10-step procedure that you can do to actually find that, whatever is there that's holding you back. Then together, you can actually resolve that. Yeah, the way that will go is a certain procedure that depends on repeating certain things that would bring to the surface the content of the incident that's been hidden, that's been out of your sight for so long, and now all of a sudden it surfaces again. And when that does, the negative force and the negative power over you will actually disappear. It's a procedure that you can learn together with a friend. It's also a procedure that you can actually get from a professional, perhaps somewhere near to you. But how to be more precise? Well, let's say if your car is giving you headaches, then the best way to go about it is get some knowledge about cars. If you get some knowledge about cars, then you'll find out, hey, I could fix this myself. I could fix that myself. I could check this myself, and I could find out that myself. And it would reduce your headaches because you're more in control. And the same thing is true for your mind and for your life. When you get the data, when you get the knowledge about the mind, which is what you will get from the book, you're going to have a lot of realizations. And basically by reading alone, you will already start to erase certain things that have been holding you back. By reading, your awareness of how things work will go up, and now by applying the practice, you will come up high enough to erase its malicious content. So it's 9 o'clock. I would obviously love to go on. I'm going to stay here for some time to answer any questions if you have. But in the meantime, Pavel already put the link for that book in the chat. So in any case, let's say you have an interest in the book. The book comes in like 50 languages. You can get it in Chinese and Arabic and Farsi, in Urdu and in German, in English, of course, many languages. And you're actually getting free. We're offering free shipping to all of Europe. It's 20 euros. It's a life changer, but it's really for people who want improvement. Right. Good. So Pavel is asking me an interesting question. Oh, all right. You put my number in the chat already. Fantastic. So for anybody who has any specific questions, who wants to reach out to me, that's my WhatsApp number in the chat. How did it help me? Well, I can tell you, I have not always been doing public speaking. Obviously, when I started with this, I was very nervous. I can tell you, I was very nervous. It was not my second nature, and that shit would always kick in like crazy. I had one specific phobia, and that was I couldn't make phone calls. And it bothered me so much that I left the country and I moved to the Caribbean, because I went there on holidays and I found out that in the Caribbean I didn't have to make phone calls. I could just walk in any office. So I wouldn't have that stress and that torture, that mental gymnastic, that mental torture of having to do phone calls, right? And both these phone calls, the public speaking is completely handled with Dianetics. Right now it's quite the reverse. I love to be on the phone. But likewise, there's certain things that I've been doing I wasn't proud of, that I find quite embarrassing, which have gone. They're no longer there, right? So, and I can freely talk about that because I know everybody has this. I know everybody has this, and it's quite amazing that for the first time in human history, somebody was actually able to discover what is the mind, how does it work, what is that single thing that's holding us back, that's giving us these butterfly feelings, that is making us do all these stupid actions that don't help at all to achieve our goals, and how to undo that, fully undo that. So your IQ goes up, your confidence goes up, and you become more able. Anybody who doesn't want that, yeah, I have loved this journey so far. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Any comments? Otherwise, feel free to send me to send me a WhatsApp. That's all cool. Like I said, the book is 20 euros. It comes with a fantastic glossary, so you don't have to go online. You don't have to consult a dictionary. You get your own dictionary right here in the back of the book. The first part of the book is all about the mind. The second part is about the method, the therapy. What do you find in the book? The goal of man, the dynamic principle of existence, the descriptive graph of survival, the discovery and complete anatomy of the reactive mind, the painful experiences which command one to act irrationally against their own wishes and goals, the complete procedure to discover and eradicate these harmful experiences so they never affect you again. Amazing, yeah? All right, guys. Robert, you said the effect is stronger, the more important something is focused. Why is that? Yeah. So there is something that you want to achieve, right? It's something that you want to achieve. That's your goal. Let me wipe out something. So you got your eye on a goal, right? That goal represents survival. Now, sur means above. Vival means live. So survival is very important for you because it just doesn't mean survive like a bum in the street. No, to you it means like that's something elevated. There's a high level of existence. Meaning it's going to add a lot of value to your life. Yeah, survival should be something that adds a lot of value to your life. So that's usually what goals are about. Now, the opposite of survival are these incidents. These are the opposite, the exact opposite. They go against your very survival. And the mind has a computation, which you'll find in the book, that makes it reactivate those counter-survival incidents and throws them at you. So the more survival your goal, the more you push, the harder this seems to kick in. You'll find out the exact anatomy in the book. Well, Olaf, yes, thank you for being here. It's nice to have two Germans tonight. Would be great to speak some German next time. Robert, okay, thanks. Yes, my friend, you're most welcome. All right, guys, so we're almost 10 past 9. I hope you got something out of this tonight. I hope this was somewhat educational. At least that was the purpose. My recommendation, get some knowledge. Mental health has got a very, very bad reputation. Some of these mental health institutions turn people into zombies. Some of these institutions take people through decades of therapy. It's not worth it. Now, it has given mental health a very, very, very bad name. It doesn't mean that everything out there is bad. There's actually good stuff. All right? Good stuff will be ridiculed by the vested interests. Good stuff will be attacked by the vested interest. Well, I would say, use your own eyes, find out for yourself. All right? Okay, guys. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for attending. Hope to see you again soon. For now, have a great rest of the evening.